Hi, I'm Lori Brennan, the Executive Director of the Nature Conservancy in Pennsylvania and Delaware. Welcome to Bog Day. I'm here in the Pocono Mountains at the Tannersville Cranberry Bog. Protection of this preserve began in 1957, making it the second oldest preserve in the state of Pennsylvania. The preserve harbors unique plant species not found in many other places across our state, which are actually more indicative of the boreal bogs you'll find in Canada. The preserve also represents a long history of collaboration with and among the local community. Local partners, including Kettle Creek Environmental Education Center, Pocono Township, the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, along with the local Volunteer Stewardship Committee, have made it possible for the Nature Conservancy to keep this unique habitat thriving. So welcome to the Tannersville Cranberry Bog and enjoy Bog Day.
I'm a retired botanist, and I've been involved in Tannersville Cranberry Bog for a number of decades. Presently, I'm the chair of the Tannersville Cranberry Bog Stewardship Committee, and the preserve that we manage is a more than 1,000-acre preserve here with a number of different types of plant and animal ecosystems that we're going to go through today. The northern side of the ridge here has a forest that's adapted to cooler, moister conditions. So you see hemlocks here, for example. Also behind me, you can see part of the red maple swamp. There's an extensive swamp that also is on the preserve. This is the boardwalk that allows entrance into the bog. What you see behind me is still more of the red maple swamp. The waters here cause soils to be saturated, and therefore you end up with little oxygen in the soil and very low nutrients, at least some nutrients such as nitrogen. So the plants have to be adapted to this waterlogging. Also, they have to be adapted to stresses involved with few nutrients. Here you see an alder tree, and how this copes in terms of its strategies is it has an association with microscopic actinomycetes that fix atmospheric nitrogen to provide nitrogen fertilizer to the plant. As we go in, eventually we're going to get into the bog itself, which is a more circular structure. It's a glacial kettle hole bog. This means that it was formed after the last glaciation from a buried block of ice, and a specific type of plant there, sphagnum moss, grew up in that circular area. This is one of the dominant trees of the bog. We're within the bog itself now. This is tamarack. The other tree that we're going to see is black spruce. Because we're actually in the bog now, these trees are growing on sphagnum moss. We'll see more of that as we go into the bog. Only the surface layer is live living moss. And then we'll go down about 30 feet of partially decayed moss, what we might call peat moss, saturated with water. So we're not sitting on soil here. We're sitting on a huge sponge of dead and live moss. And these trees are rooted in that. Because they're not actually rooted in the earth, you see here that I can take the tree and shake and move the whole tree, because it's actually just rooted in the moss. Some of the rarer plants in the bog need open areas that are sunny to grow. So as part of a management plan for the bog, we have been opening areas up over the last decade. This area here that we opened up eventually established a number of plants that we wanted to encourage in terms of growing in the bog. One of these is bog rosemary. Also, we wanted habitat for cranberry. The cranberry plants here actually are utilized by a endangered species of butterfly we have in the bog here, the bog copper butterfly, and its caterpillars feed on cranberry leaves. We've also had orchids now come up and bloom in this open area. So we have been successful in terms of managing the bog by opening it up. To my left over here is an area we more recently opened up. We have to do some clearing of the shrubs here to keep it more open. And then we'll see what sort of plants will come into here, this open area too. Now Lloyd here is showing us some of the cranberries that grow in the bog. Lloyd is the son of a former student of mine. One of the unique plants you see in the open area that we established as part of the management plan is the cotton grass here, with its heads of fruit with cottony scales on them. One of the ways that plants cope with low nitrogen in the bog is by actually capturing animals and getting nitrogen from them. These sort of insectivorous plants actually digest the insects that they catch for nitrogen. We have 3 different insectivorous plants in Tannersville Cranberry Bog. One of them is this pitcher plant, in which the pitchers hold water with digestive enzymes, and insects are attracted into going down the pitcher and therefore getting drowned and digested. This black spruce tree here has another strategy in terms of being adapted to low nitrogen in this bog. It just grows extremely slowly because of the low nutrients here. It may take 35 or more years for a black spruce to become sexually mature and be able to reproduce and produce cones. You see that there's cones in this tree. This means that this tree is at least 35 years old. But see how small it is? It has grown very, very slowly. Number of plants in the rhododendron family that grow in the bog. This is a highbush blueberry, but we also have a couple different types of laurels. We also have some other plants in that family, such as rhododendron viscosum, that is a bog honeysuckle. And as we'll see later, we also have bog rosemary growing in the bog. This gives you a view of the vegetation you find typically in the bog here. You see some tamarack trees, you see some black spruce trees. You see a number of shrubs that are in the rhododendron family. Lillian here is holding a really fine patch of cranberry with a great number of fruits on them. This is growing over the boardwalk. You can see how many fruits there are and why this is called Cranberry Bog.
I'm Ann. I'm a member of the Tannersville Cranberry Bog Preserve Committee. We've been hosting an annual Bog Day for many years now. Though we're having a virtual tour today, we're hoping that we'll be able to all be on the boardwalk next year. I'd like to tell you a little bit about us. We're a Nature Conservancy Stewardship Committee. We work along with the Nature Conservancy and the Monroe County Conservation District and its Kettle Creek Environmental Education staff to maintain and protect the bog preserve. The forerunner to our committee was organized in the mid-1950s by a young botany professor. Dr. Bill Nearing understood the importance of this unique natural area. His committee raised the necessary funds for the Nature Conservancy to purchase the first parcel of bog preserve property. During a period of about a decade in the 1960s and 70s, universities and colleges used the bog for environmental study, sort of an outdoor laboratory. Unfortunately, the fragile vegetation was trampled and damaged, and the college that held ownership at that time responsibly decided to close the preserve. Ownership was returned to the Nature Conservancy, and in 1978, the bog was rededicated, and a local committee was formed. 2 years later, in 1980, the bylaws for that committee were approved by the Nature Conservancy. This marked the official beginning of today's Bog Preserve Committee. Planning for better public access took place, and a 350-foot boardwalk was installed. Of course, the boardwalk has been much expanded since then. So the committee has a long history. We meet quarterly to evaluate the current health and use of the preserve, to plan, advise, suggest, recommend, but we're also a hands-on committee. Through the years, members have cut and marked upland trails, posted boundaries, removed invasives, done roadside litter pickup, installed a tag numbering system along the boardwalk to pinpoint areas of interest like a flowering orchid or concern like poison sumac that needs to be trimmed back. During the year, members monitor the boardwalk and upland trails, such as the one I'm on today, the Fern Ridge Trail, and it's pretty obvious how it got its name. We also assist the Kettle Creek Environmental Center naturalists with their very popular public bog walks. The spacious parking lot where those guided walks begin did not exist before 2004. Buses had to drop off students roadside, cars parked on side streets. Safety was a major concern. In 1998, the committee formed a task force, and during the next 6 years, were very involved in planning and fundraising. It was an educational experience. We learned about line of sight, retention basins, conditional use. One of our members, an artist and engineer, helped design the 4-paneled information kiosk at the lot. Our volunteer members come from a variety of backgrounds. Some do have a training in the biological sciences, but the only requirement is a love of nature and an interest in protecting this very special place. If you want to learn more about us, you're welcome to drop in at a meeting. You can call the Kettle Creek Environmental Education Center to find out about scheduled meeting dates.
Hello, my name's Roger, and I'm the Environmental Education Coordinator at the Monroe County Conservation District's Kettle Creek Environmental Ed Center. And I'm happy to be out here in the bog on a beautiful day, sharing with you information about all the different programs that you can take part in here at the Tannersville Bog. For over 40 years, the Conservation District has worked with the Nature Conservancy and the Volunteer Bog Committee to provide access to the bog for the general public, for school groups, for college groups, for civic organizations. And each year, almost 4,000 people come out on one of these tours and tour the bog, and they learn all about the bog ecology and the uniqueness of this preserve. You've learned about bog ecology and seen a lot of beautiful photographs of bog plants, but you also have to realize the bog is home to a lot of different species of animals. And we're fortunate to be able to put out trail cameras along the boardwalk and capture some images of some of those animals who stroll on the boardwalk or use the bog as their home habitat. We encourage you, if you're interested in coming out, to check out the website at the Nature Conservancy or Kettle Creek's website, and it will have a whole list of walks and how you can contact us to set up your experience in the Tannersville Bog. So thanks to the Bog Preserve Committee. Have a great bog day on this virtual tour, and I hope you enjoyed the experience.